Welcome to Around the Table. It is so exciting, Kev, to begin a brand new year, and not just a brand new year, but we're starting a brand new podcast. The first one that I have ever done. The first one we've done all year, but the first one we've done ever. And it's just exciting. It's an exciting time for us to begin this journey. We've been talking about ways that we can continue to engage those online in this new year and beyond. And so today, we welcome you to our pilot episode that we are just going to introduce what we do. This podcast is called Around the Table. If you know anything about our church, we are pastors at the La Mesa Elam Adventist Church, and we have just been running with the table theme because we believe there's room at the table for all. And we thought, hey, what better way to have a podcast than just around the table? And so if you are watching, you will see that we are around the table. Yep. And we've got some food around the table because we believe that good food and good talk makes for some meaningful time together. My name is Ruben, and I am the senior pastor, lead pastor of this awesome church, La Mesa Adventist Church. And sitting across from me is...
My name is Kevin. I'm the youth pastor here at the La Mesa Adventist Church.
That's right. And we've known each other for actually a long time, but we've been able to serve together for a couple of years. It's kind of bittersweet, though, because Kevin is actually going to be leaving us in about 6 months. Wah, wah. He's heading out. But we're happy for him because he's going to the seminary, the Adventist Theological Seminary at Andrews University, and he's going to continue his education there, working on his Master of Divinity. And so on the one hand, I'm excited for him. On the other hand, it's a bummer because we're going to lose this awesome young man who's been such a blessing. And, of course, then I guess around that time, we'll cross that bridge when it comes. I got to find another host, man. I got to find another co-host. But until then, we're going to make the most of this, Kev. And we're just excited today to embark on this journey, this new podcast that we're doing. And we decided to do this podcast because we felt like we wanted to do more for our church community. But not just our church community, we wanted to do more for those who are guests, those who come and drop in at the table, whether that's here in person or that's watching online. And we just know that the way that the future church is going is a lot different than where we've been. And one of the things that we believe is we just felt like we wanted to do more to engage throughout the week, to engage in other ways that we can reach people. And we thought, hey, everyone's doing a podcast.
Might as well start one.
So might as well start a podcast. And why not? I mean, everyone else is doing it. Why not get on the podcast bandwagon like some of y'all getting on the bandwagon with the San Diego Padres just because they got all these great people now. That's another story for another day.
Don't let Martha say anything.
Don't let Martha. That's right. She might try to tell me that I'm jumping in. But I've been a Padre fan all my life, born and raised SD, and will go down to the grave as a Padres fan. More importantly, as a follower of Jesus Christ. So this podcast, we want you to be so connected to God. We want you to grow. And we know that, Kev, staying connected to God during this chaotic time can be a struggle. No doubt about that. And what me and Kev want to do is we want to come alongside you and invite you to our table for some meaningful conversations about God, about life, about church, about culture. Again, we want this to be helpful because we know, Kev, that when things get tough, and especially during times of crisis and when it gets chaotic, folks struggle in their relationship with God.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that. But we thought, hey, having food and sitting around the table is exactly what we need.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, first of all, I got to say, man, when you're introducing me, all I was thinking was like, way to start on such a somber note. I was like, yeah, we're starting a new podcast. Pastor Kevin's leaving. All right. New host.
Well, you know, man, it's not that somber. I mean, that's why I try to fluff it up a little bit, man. I try to be funny and excited and not excited that you're leaving, but excited that you're going to do some great things and that we still have time with you. Hey, where did we get today? We are eating some acai bowls. That's
Yep.
how you say it correctly, by the way. Acai bowls, acai. And one of the things that we want to do when we get together every week around the table with some good food is we want to bring food and we want to highlight some of the great spots in and around La Mesa, San Diego. So you're going to see us eating if you're watching, and don't mind us. We may have a challenge, and we may have to pause. You might hear some munching, every now and then. But Kev, tell us a little bit about what you got for us today
Yes,
and what
sir.
we're eating.
Well, okay. First of all, we gotta like point out we're not sponsored. All right, this is us. We're gonna be supporting our local businesses here in La Mesa, Spring Valley area, and so one of my personal favorite places to go to is Natural Delights. It's in Spring Valley. It's right off of Avocado Street
a great
Avenue,
place.
or whatever it is, right off of right in Spring Valley, off of the 94. It's a great place. I think you're the one who told me about it.
I did.
And I've been going since I got here. So it's awesome. It's if you want to do like vegan or just like healthy food, like I feel like most people get scared when they hear vegan. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, you know. But if you just want to have like healthy food, like it's not bad. I think it's probably like one of the better places to go to.
That's right. I agree. I told you about it like I told you about the shoes that you're wearing. Shoes that I think we're a little twinning here, you know. I got some cool Reebok old school shoes, and Kevin saw my shoes and he said, I need some of them shoes, especially because they were on sale as well.
Hey man, I saw him like over a year ago. I just decided to get them now.
He just decided after the fact. Anyway, so listen, we again, we really believe in this table theme. In fact, one of the best definitions of the gospel that I read and that I heard is that Jesus ate good food with bad people around the table. This idea of when you think about Jesus, and he would often be reprimanded and accused of eating with sinners and tax collectors. There's something around this theme of the table. Some of the best conversations happen around food and the table. In fact, there's some amazing TV shows. I've seen a few of them, from Netflix, and you've got people going around the world. There's one actor, I forget his name, but he would go around the world and just eat some good food with different people. And then the late Anthony Bourdain had this show, I believe was No Reservations or something like that on CNN. And this guy would go around eating good food with people he didn't know, people that didn't share the same values and beliefs, but yet at the table, it's like everyone has a place at the table, especially with good food and with good people. There's just something about it, Kev.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think to our listeners, right? We obviously have conversations right before we start recording, but what I was telling Pastor Ruben was, I think the cool thing about eating around the table is just the fact that it requires you to shut up and listen, right? I feel like some of the times, right, when we're having conversations with people, we're so focused on what we have to say that we refuse to listen to what the other person has to say because we're so focused on what the point that we're trying to get across, right? And I know for myself, like I tend to ramble sometimes, and so I think it's good, to be able to eat and have time to stop talking and actually listen to the point of view of the other person, because I feel like nowadays, right, especially with cancel culture, it's this huge issue where people don't want to listen to the other person. But I think the beautiful, like even like the symbolism of what we're doing now, right, is like we're by saying we're talking around the table, we're simply saying like, yo, we're gonna take time to listen to what the other person has to say.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the story of Christianity, I think this is just great to keep in mind. Historically, remember, doesn't take place behind pulpits or in church pews. The story of Christianity takes place around tables as people face one another as equals, telling stories, sharing memories, and enjoying food with one another. Just read through the book of Acts, the beginning of the book of Acts, and one of the core disciplines of this growth in the early church was this fellowship, this being together, breaking bread together. At the table, Kev, we don't just feed people, as good as it is. And I like to eat good food, but we build relationships where stories and memories are created. And that's exactly what we want to do. This is the introduction, this pilot. We want to introduce you to where we're going with this and why this is so important to be around the table. Again, if you're just joining us and you're listening to this, we've got a table set up in our podcast booth, which is just on stage in church, and we got some good food because, again, we don't just feed people around the table, we build relationships. Kevin, what was dinner like for you at the table growing up as a family? What was that experience like for you?
Well, it's hard to say because, like, honestly, I don't think we have like a very nuclear family. Like, in terms of like how my family dynamic works. My dad was always working, and his schedule was so different. So sometimes he'd come in at 6 p.m. Other times he wouldn't get home till like 8. So it just depended on when he was home. And so my mom's like the typical Hispanic mom, who's constantly like walking around, making sure that everyone's served. Even when we have guests over, she rarely ever sits down. You know, she's usually just walking around trying to see like how to serve the other person.
Right.
And so I think I growing up, I was never used to it. And to this day, I know that like my parents have like this struggle to have like for everyone to sit down with my little brother, because he's more of the kind of person who kind of wants to like be on his own. And even when we get him to finally come over, he's usually just on his phone the whole time, right? But I think more now than ever, when I actually go see my parents, I actually do get the chance to sit down with them. And I think part of it's also just because I'm going to throw my shout out right now to Vanessa, my girlfriend, who's probably going to be listening because she was talking about how excited she'd be to listen to this podcast. But honestly, it's like
we got at least one listener.
Right? Yeah, exactly. We got one subscriber coming in soon.
All right, man.
But no, it wasn't until like I started hanging out with like her family, and her family, or at least the times that I'm over, they tend to sit down, and I've honestly learned to cherish what it means to sit around the table and actually enjoy people's company. And so I've tried to reintroduce that into my own family.
That's wonderful, man. And I think it's so important, you know, when you mention about, you know, your brother and being distracted or around the table, man. I feel the same way about my son, 13-year-old TR. It seems like it's such a challenge to sit at the table and to sit for a longer period of time at the table, like more than 5 minutes, which is, we have a rule in our home. There are no tablets at the table. We remove tablets, and because, again, we're looking to engage in this meaningful, great conversation around the table. In fact, Kevin, I'll have you know, and everyone else who's listening, that 60 years ago, the average dinner time was 90 minutes.
Dang. 90
minutes. Today, it's less than 12 minutes. So what a gap, what a jump. I mean, think about the impact that can have. That the majority of families report eating a single meal together less than 5 days a week. My, how times have changed. And sociologists, I thought this was interesting. I thought it'd be good for us to hear a little bit about this. Cody C. Delastrati discovered proof that the loss of the table has had quantifiable negative effects, both physically and psychologically, on our families and our kids. Here's what he found, Kevin. The number one factor for parents raising kids who are drug-free, healthy, intelligent, kind human beings: frequent family dinners. We got to say that together, Kevin.
All right.
Frequent family dinners. That's right. The number one shaper of vocabulary in younger children, even more than any other family event, including play: Ready, Kev? Frequent family dinners. The number one predictor of future academic success for elementary age children? Frequent family dinners. Because Kevin's struggling here because he's eating over here.
Yeah, guys got to eat sometimes. Man.
One of the best safeguards against childhood obesity, eating meals together. Switch that up on you, Kev. Eating meals together.
You lost me there.
The best prescription to prevent eating disorders among adolescent girls, frequent family dinners that exude a positive atmosphere. The variable most associated with lower incidence of depressive and suicidal thoughts among 11 to 18 years olds, frequent family dinners. If you want kids with fewer emotional and behavioral problems, greater emotional well-being, more trusting and helpful behaviors towards others, and higher life satisfaction, then you need more frequent family dinners. And so that's why. This is our why. This is why we come around this table. This is why we keep running with this beautiful theme here at our church, that we're making room at the table, because there's something significantly powerful about the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, right, I think this is, or at least for me, first of all, I'm a major foodie, so my thing is, like, I love going out to eat. And so I think, like, that's literally, I was looking at my year-end statement last year, and the amount of money that I was spending on food every month was ridiculous. It kind of, like, hurt me. But, like, it's my thing. It's the thing that I enjoy doing because, yeah, I love eating at home, but being able to share that experience of going out, right? So my roommate and I, he kind of coerced me yesterday because he was down in the dumps, and he was like, man, I'm having an off day. Like, let's go. And so I was not going to – I already set my New Year's resolution that I wasn't going to end up – going out to eat as much, but I caved in like 5 days into the new year, and so we ended up going. We went to Shawarma Guys, also not sponsored, but also a great spot to go to. So we went to Shawarma Guys, and the thing is, it was
South Park.
Yeah, in South Park, and it was almost therapeutic. You know, like I think there's just something about when you sit down. You know how it's like when that person tells you, like, hey, I have some news I got to tell you. You might want to sit down for this, right? And like you both collectively like sit down, because I think there's an acknowledgement of saying we're on the same level, right? By sitting down, you're taking the time to acknowledge, like, you know what, you're no greater than I am, nor am I any greater than you are. And I think when you establish that even playing field, and I think this is why it's so important for families to have this, right? Because it tears down those barriers. Because I feel like most of the time when it comes to younger kids, the reason why they don't want to talk to their parents, right? The reason why they don't want to sit at the table is because they feel like there's that disconnect, right? They see their parents up here and then down here, versus what sitting at the table actually does to family dynamic is you set that tone of being equals. And so that's where breakthroughs happen, and that's where, you know, kids eventually want to open up to their parents. The frequent family dinners that we kept bringing up is just because the more you do it, you know, the more comfortable you get. And so after a while, you set a precedent, right? Where yes, your parent is an authority figure, right? But they're also not oblivious, or they're not. It's not like they can't sympathize or empathize with the emotions that the average teenager feels. And so I think that's what I appreciate, you know, about being able to sit down at a table, is you're establishing that equality between the two individuals.
Yeah, that's great. I 100% agree. So we have a challenge for you who are listening and watching. If you have not regularly engaged in frequent family dinners or frequent time around the table, now is as great a time as ever, especially as we enter this new year, to be able to establish that tradition in your home where you're sitting together more than 12 minutes, or if you got to start with 12 minutes, start with something, but to get back to that table discussion. We've lost the table, Kevin. We've lost the table in churches. We've lost the table in our homes. And we've lost the table in our relationships. And I think that one of the greatest things we can do as people of God, as people who long for relationships, is to bring back the table. So if you're with me, listeners, watching, listening, Come on, let's bring back the table in 2021. And that's exactly what we want to do through this podcast. Is we want to come to you around the table with some good food and have some meaningful conversations around the table about God, about life, about spiritual health, and just about church and about culture. We just want to have these meaningful discussions. And this has been super great for me, Kev, to be able to start this pilot off in this way. It's just fun. It feels very chill and relaxed. We've got some food, and we're excited about what's coming.
Absolutely.
And we're ready to take this thing and continue to come to you every single week. This podcast will air on Saturday mornings. But the good thing about podcasts is you can watch or you can listen anytime that you want. You can do that while you're at the table. You can do that while you're running, on the treadmill, or while you're working around the house. You can do that. Now, next week, I'm excited because next week we're going to spend some time talking about spiritual, emotional discipleship. We're going to talk about spiritual and emotional health. I love what this one author says, Pete Scazzaro, in this book, Emotional Healthy Spirituality. He says, it is impossible, Kevin, to be spiritually mature while being emotionally immature. There is a difference and there is a gap, and I think that one of the reasons why people struggle in their faith walk is because they may check off the list of all the things that they do, like maybe going to church, like knowing Jesus, like serving, like giving, but they still don't find that spiritual growth and health that they're looking for. And part of the reason why, Kev, is because we fail to address that emotional health, that stuff that lies beneath the surface. And that's what we're going to focus on in the coming weeks in this season one that we're in. We're going to focus on spiritual and emotional health. And I can't wait for us to launch into that. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think hearing that, right, the thing that I'm excited for is honestly, man, like when it comes to like spirituality, right, as much as we want to say like we're very raw and very more open to talking about this kind of stuff, I feel like that the analogy that you use, right, that we're not even scratching the surface most of the time. I feel like sometimes we not only do we not scratch the surface with other people, but we also don't scratch the surface on our own, right?
Right.
And I think part of the most important parts of like spirituality is kind of uncovering like why do you believe what you believe in, right? And how does that actually affect the other areas in your life? Because I feel like sometimes we get it twisted, right? We allow all those other areas of our lives to influence what our faith actually looks like, right? When it was never meant to be that way. And I think also just acknowledging, right, that there's two components to our or two major components that we're looking at, right? Because there's a physical aspect, right? Like physical health. There's mental health. There's emotional health, but there's also spiritual health.
That's right.
And in some way, all of those are interrelated. And so I think for me, I'm interested in seeing like how it's going to unfold, because I think people my age, right? We kind of since we're still trying to figure things out, right? I feel like millennials and Gen Zs, want to have answers that they don't necessarily know the answers to, or they have questions that they don't know the answers to. So the fact that we're going to be doing this, I think it'll be good for our younger listeners to be able to step into this conversation, just to hear out like the rawness that comes with, talking about our emotional, spiritual health.
Yeah, that's right. Bourdain did a study called The Connected Generation, about the connected generation, which is exactly the demographic that you just referenced. And what they discovered is that this connected generation is connected, but they're alone. Despite being a hyper-connected and globally minded generation, many young adults say they feel so lonely. As crazy as that sounds, as connected as we are, they are lonely. This generation this connected generation is this age of anxiety. There's worry and insecurity that's often tied to finances and vocation and are prominent traits among a generation that has come of age in a chaotic, complex time. And if there were ever a more chaotic and complex time, it is right now. And so we want to come alongside you and really help you find that spiritual and emotional health that goes below the surface and beyond a cookie cutter spiritual churchy experience to go deep in your faith walk with God. So if you're with us, you can join us next week, every Saturday. You can find us on YouTube. You can like and subscribe to our channel. And again, we would love to have you continue to join us at the table every week.
And I think when this shows up on Spotify, feel free to leave a review. Let us know how we're doing and how we can make things better. Because this is a new thing.
That's right. It's a pilot episode.
So we're trying to figure. I think the big thing that I was trying to figure out is how to eat so that my acai bowl wouldn't melt.
Yeah, you did pretty good because you finished more than me. You must have been hungry, man. But it was good. It was a good day, a good time. We'll come back to you next week. We'll have some more information on ways to stay connected, ways to follow us, where to find us, and all that good stuff. Until then,
we'll see you next time.
See you next time. And don't forget to make time around the table. Bye.